I'm Lisa Camilleri, and my guest today is Lauren Selby from England. Lauren, you played on the PSA Tour for 7 years, and your highest world ranking was number 34. You are now a coach and the director of coaching at Off the Wall Squash, based in Colchester, Essex. You are also the head Norwegian national coach for juniors and seniors. So welcome and thank you for joining me today at Squash Alchemy.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Excited to be here. Talking across the world.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, strange times, but it's pretty exciting to be connected. It's been a little while since we've seen each other, and
I know it's got ages.
Yeah, last time it was when we were on tour together playing, so that was We'll get things kicked off with, if you can tell us a little bit about your playing career, and importantly tell us about the move and transition from obviously player to your coaching role.
Yeah, so I played on the tour for about 7 years and had some ups and downs. So I had quite a few injuries throughout my career. So I'd have a stint where I was doing well, and then I would get injured and drop back down again and have to start again. And I managed to get to 34, which I was pleased with. And I actually stopped when I thought I was playing my best, which is bit of a bizarre thing to do, but I just felt I was happy with the way I was playing, and I wanted a new career and a change, and I'd enjoyed my time on the tour, but I think secretly in the back of my head I was always going to be a squash coach more than a squash player.
Okay. So during when you were playing, did you do some coaching while you were playing, or was it just a full transition?
Yeah, no, I've been coaching since I was probably about 14. So my dad is a squash coach, and I used to help him with all his squads when I was younger, and I loved it as a teenager. He didn't pay me that well, but I loved it, and the whole time I played professionally, I coached alongside playing. Like, because I loved it, but also it's hard and you need some extra cash, so that was the way that I did it. I worked alongside Lee Drew, who's now the England national coach, and we sort of started the juniors together and built it up at that club. So I was just working for myself, and then that centre shut, so we had to switch venues, and we moved to an army barracks with 6 courts, and it was then that we started properly as an academy, and sort of my parents got involved, and we had a few other coaches get involved, so it started to grow from there really. But I had a few years on my own working without the academy.
Yeah, okay. Can you tell us a little bit about the actual academy, so Off the Wall? So is that did you come up with the name, and is that your baby?
No, it's my dad and Danny Lee, another guy called Mike Harris, years and years ago, they started up Off the Wall because they were going to run a tournament in Brighton on the beach. And they created the name then, and my dad sort of stole it from that, and he still had it. So when we were trying to think of a name, he sort of gave us that name. So we thought it was pretty good, and we nicked it from him.
Yeah, it is a good name.
It's sort of my baby, but like I couldn't have done it without a lot of help from people.
Yeah, sure. So when you started, how many kids did you have, and how many juniors do you have now?
So we started, I brought some of the kids over from my old squash club, and we probably had about 30 kids. Maybe a few maybe 25, 30, yeah. And then we've grown it, and we've got about 110 now. Much more, yeah. It's pretty good.
Yeah, well done. With the program, do you have like all different levels?
Yeah, so we have levels. So we start off with our sort of improvers, so the kids who are just starting, like new to the game, any age really. We're not really specific on age, it's more ability. And then we go into our advanced, and then we've got our elite silver and elite gold. So we've got sort of 4 different levels that the kids can go through.
Okay.
Yeah, so they know the way up to the sort of top groups. There's a clear structure there. when I was younger, I don't know if you had the same in Australia, we used to have like levels, qualifications, sort of certificates. So we used to have bronze, silver and gold here when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to try and complete the skills to get to the next certificate. And I thought it was brilliant at the time, and it really made me sort of try and improve myself to get to the next level. And I loved that whole idea, and they didn't have anything like that anymore. So we decided to create our own. So we call it the Progress Awards, and it's got 6 levels. And the kids have 6 skills in each level, and they have to try and get to the next level.
Okay.
And it's been pretty good. Like, and we use it with the kids in the academy.
Yeah, sure. So for instance, I mean, level 1 must be just complete beginner, and then level 6, is that, what level does that go to?
So level 1 and 2 can be done outside of a squash court, and it is pretty basic. So we've had some sort of 5-year-olds complete level 1, and it is really basic, a lot of throwing and catching. And then level 6 is probably your sort of someone who's just starting out at county level.
Okay. Yeah.
Sort of your higher end juniors. We've actually, during this lockdown, we've decided to write level 7 and 8.
Ah, sweet. You're the head national coach to Norway. How do you manage the teams there, being based in England?
Yeah, it's pretty tricky. So it was a bit of a challenge, because obviously I'd not had a national role before, and having to get my head around not being in the country that I was sort of coaching was quite hard. But I basically go over for weekends to do squads with the seniors and the juniors separately. And then one of the coaches who works with us, Emily Ison, she's my assistant for the senior team. She will go over as well and do individual coaching during a week. So they get a little bit more contact time than just that weekend. But it's not easy. It requires a lot of sort of Skype calls, and the communication has to be pretty good with them.
How many players are you managing there?
So we have 18 in the senior squad and 18 in the junior squad. And then we've started a regional program as well. So making sure they have squads in each region as well, like a level down. So it's quite a lot of kids. Yeah,
I saw also you got a pretty cool squash school program, netted walls that you guys put up. Do you do that yourself? Do you go into the schools and? Yeah.
So when I finished playing professionally, I had some good advice from someone that schoolwork was sort of the way to go to get more kids into your club. So I got shown how to use the squash net. I had no idea about primary school teaching, so I sort of just made it up myself. And went in with, I had like a 16-year-old boy who was a squash player, and I made him come with me and be my assistant, and we just sort of created it ourselves. And then since then it's grown and grown and grown, from being in 2 schools to we're now in 15 schools.
Wow.
Throughout the days, and we have a team of sort of 7 or 8 coaches that go in every day. Basically, we're in different schools, and we've sort of created a curriculum ourselves just from trial and error, getting it really badly wrong. And now we've got a pretty good program, and we've created it into a resource that we haven't quite finished yet, but it's nearly there. And it has all the curriculum in there. So how you would deliver a squash in a primary school. And it's really good. We teach about 2,000 kids a year.
Wow, that's awesome. And out of the 2,000, what percentage do you retain back into the program?
That's the hardest bit, I think, is getting the kids to come across to squash. So from that, we would usually get sort of 50 to 60 starting a year, but obviously it keeps changing and they drop out. You know what kids are like, they play a sport for 2 weeks and then decide they don't like it anymore, and it's being able to keep them. That's the hardest bit about the program, because it's as probably the same in Australia, that kids want to play everything. and try everything, which is brilliant, but trying to then hook them into your sport, especially with some of the more popular sports like football here, cricket, rugby, netball, they would more likely go and play those.
Yeah, like you said, you're in multiple different schools now. I find the hardest part is to get the school to sign up for the sport because, you know, they don't really know much about squash, and it's hard to convince the teacher to take the sport up. So how have you managed that?
So the beginning was tough. Like you said, schools have no idea how you'd ever deliver squash in a hall. And luckily I had a good contact with one of the head teachers, and she tried it in the school. And she, I don't know if you have this in Australia, we have like consortiums, which is like a cluster of schools that all work together. And she was on a consortium and she told everyone how good squash was. So then all the heads for those schools then weren't so dubious about it. And I managed to then just slowly sort of get into each school at a time. And then from that, because they all talk to each other, they're like, you have to have squash, it's really good. And it's sort of grown from there.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we do, which actually helps us get kids into the program, is we run a primary school competition called the Roman Cup. And basically the best kids from the school, so they put in teams of 2 boys and 2 girls, and they compete against all the other schools that we've been in. Cool. And they have a big competition. There's sort of like 100 kids playing at the squash courts, and then that's sort of how we get the kids in, because the parents come and watch and they think it's really good, and that's quite a good way to do it.
Yeah, it's a brilliant idea. A weekly training schedule. So say you got classes going every day of the week?
Into a school, usually morning and afternoon, so different schools. And then after that, I would go to the squash courts sort of about 3 or 4 o'clock. And then I would either have private lessons all evening, or I would have a mixture of group sessions and private sessions. So that's Monday to Friday.
Wow.
I don't know if you feel the same, but I think if you're passionate about something and you want it to work, like the beginning, you really have to graft, and it's not always that pleasant, you know, working till late at night and not having, like, the social hours are a bit difficult. But as you get sort of more experience, you can then almost filter what you do slightly, rather than do sort of the really long days. You can, like, I have really good coaches that I can just, you know, like they can go into a school for me, and it's much easier now. It's still hard work, but I think you can sort of delegate a bit better.
Going back to the juniors and the kids, what's kind of your like youngest and what is your oldest?
So the youngest, so we have some sort of 5-year-olds, 5-6-year-olds that come in. One of them's actually my nephew, Daryl's son. He's part of the academy now. So that sort of age, we have a few, and then we have a few that are at university. So really good squash player, Kieran from Wales. He came to university in Colchester, and so he's 20, nearly 20. So we have quite a lot of different ages. We don't have many adults because where we work is an army facility, so it's only for the army, and we have to hire courts from them, and we're only allowed to have the courts that we've booked. So no one could come in, the public can't come and play.
Yeah, sure. How do you keep the kids progressing and improving?
I think just sort of the quality of the coaching team is really important. So making sure that everyone's on the same page, everyone has the same ideas about coaching. How we deliver it would change slightly, but I think the quality of the coaching is so important, and making sure that the new coaches we have in, you know, set the standards like we do, come through the academy, and then when they hit 16, 17, they decide they want to coach, and they already have been through the academy, so they know what's expected of them and how we deliver things.
Yeah. So from all the like knowledge, and especially as a player and now progressing as a coach, what advice would you give to a junior just wanting to take on squash as their main sport?
I always say to them that you have to enjoy it. You're not going to enjoy every single second, but on the whole, you should be enjoying it as your hobby. It's a thing, it's something you've chosen to do in your spare time. And if there's any time where you're really not enjoying it for a long period, just don't do it and do something else, because enjoyment is the thing that will spur you on to learn as well. So if you're enjoying it and you like the challenge of the sport and you desperately want to get better, you'll learn faster. And if you're not enjoying it, I just don't think you learn as fast. And that's the most important thing for me. And my parents were really good at sort of supporting me when I was a junior and making sure that if any time I didn't enjoy it, that I stopped. And I stopped for about 4 years from when I was 15. I just decided one day, I don't really like this. And they said, all right, don't do it.
Yeah.
And it must have been quite hard for them because I was doing quite well at the time. But I then, when I was sort of 19, I was just like, actually, I want to play squash again. And I ended up maybe doing more with squash than I would have done if I'd just carried on.
Yeah, right.
And you could probably, probably see my brother, he's the same. So if you watch him play, he's quite sort of expressive and he just loves playing the game. And I think that's important.
Yeah, great advice there. Well, thanks for all your advice, and it's been great to, talk coach to coach, and it's always nice to sort of get ideas and see what other people are doing at other clubs. So thanks for that. And
thanks for asking me, and keep up your hard work as well.